Where you got them? Just tell me, and then that's all.
My name is Amina Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, over me hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talking about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony Sied, and we want to say good evening if you are in the United States, then in some part of the world, and good evening to everybody, maybe I should say, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Of course, this is the hour of politics, and you have me, Anthony Sied, hosting. Welcome and welcome to what promises to be a fascinating discussion here. We got two major issues on the menu for today, and I'm sure you're going to love this discussion this evening. So we want you to do us a favor, share the broadcast with somebody, let that person be part of the discussion, while I bring to you the two main issues we have on the menu. Number one, questionable resignation at LTA. LTA is in the news again, and this time a comprehensive dimension of all that been happening since the Unity Party and Josiah Joekai took over. Not also forgetting the mountain of criticism against CSA Director General Mr. Josiah Joekai for recommendation he made for pro-CDC supporters to be dismissed from the Monrovia City Corporation. A lot of politicians, activists, and many people are weighing in, and they are calling his action, his decision to recommend the dismissal of about 9 pro-CDC supporters from the Monrovia City Corporation. He has come on a serious criticism, but according to him, they are relying on the law, and we will look at what the law says, whether that law will hold, and other reasons they also cited. All right, so if you are just joining us, we can welcome you enough. We have Jimmy Eastman seated from the city of politics, that is the nation's capital, Washington. Jimmy, good evening. How you doing? I know the convention is ongoing. I don't know you're Democrat or Republican, but how you doing, my friend?
I've been taking close view. It's going on in Chicago right now, but being in the nation's capital is hot here. The seat is hot, and it's been exciting. A lot of revelations, but I'm glad to be able to talk about our nation. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Also with us is William Gibson. William, it's good to see you joining us, and yet another time here. Welcome. How you doing?
Doing well. Always glad to be invited into the space. Looking forward to the conversation and learning through the dialogue. Thank you again for the invitation.
It's always good to have you, young brother. And Dr. Clarence R. Pearson is a new progressive commentator. He is also an author and a resident commentator here at Focus on Liberia. It's good to have you, my friend. Welcome. How you doing? How's family? I know you're following the convention. Unmute, please. Dr. Pearson, unmute. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Anthony, it's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I just want to say hi to Gibson and Mr. Eastman, and I look forward to an exciting conversation tonight. And welcome to all our viewers out there. I hope we enjoy the show tonight.
And I'm sure they're going to enjoy this show tonight. Talking about the issues. Let us go to it right away. We are talking about questionable resignations at LTA. Let me give you a summary of what's happening there. So President Joseph Joekai suspended the Board of Commissioners of LTA due to allegation of financial misconduct and other malpractices. Supreme Court ruling. The suspension came just one day after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the commissioners. President Joekai tried to get rid of those commissioners, and the Supreme Court said, well, the attorney have not expired, so the president was in the wrong to go ahead and trying to suspend them. And then Audit Request. President Joekai requested a comprehensive audit of the LTA by the General Auditing Commission to investigate the allegations. Many people said, well, maybe President Joekai was not actually trying to get an audit. He was only trying to get rid of these people and wanted something to use to get rid of them. Okay, then financial settlement. The current Board of Commissioners, led by Chairman Abdullah Kamara, is offering financial settlement to the suspended commissioners to encourage their resignation. Okay, so we learned today that the LTA authority is now offering money to commissioners for them to resign. And so others are saying, well, maybe they wanted these people out anyway. So now that they didn't succeed, with all that they've been trying to do, maybe now they're trying to give them money to get rid of them. Lead check. A lead check revealed a $25,000 disbursement to former Commissioner James Bowie, who resigned while under suspension. President Joekai, remember, suspended these commissioners, and they were on an investigation. While the investigation is ongoing, some of these commissioners have resigned. Report now said they were pressured to resign and offer some financial incentive for them to resign because the current administration actually does not want them there. So we're talking resignation. Former Commissioner James Bowie and Osborne Diggs resigned, and their resignations were accepted by President Joekai. President Joekai, who said that these people were engaged in corruption and some malpractices, who called for an audit and used the audit to suspend these people. After these people resigned while on an investigation, commended these people. And they too praised President Joekai, whose suspension they contested at the Supreme Court. That's been dismissed, like they contested at the Supreme Court. So what is going on here? These two groups were fighting, but now they are commending each other. Then we're talking money and all that. What's going on? All right. Further, refusal to resign. Suspended Commissioner Israel Akinsanya refused to resign, citing the lack of a defined exit package and the ongoing GSC audit. All right. So let's continue with that. I'm trying to give you a breakdown of what's happening there. Threats and demands. So say close to suspended chairperson. A winner of Zakba revealed she resigned due to threats and persistent demands, although her resignation has not yet been accepted by President Bouaka. So there's report that she has resigned, but she was resisting to resign. She didn't want to resign. Now she resigned. The story is saying President Bouaka is more than not willing to accept the resignation. And finally, criticisms of resignation. Critics argue that pressuring suspended officials to resign undermines the president's anti-corruption efforts. So, gentlemen and folks following the discussion here, this is what's going on at LTA. Jimmy, you got in the full story now. So this is a government that initiated this fight against corruption at various agencies. And now it is the very government that is being accused of giving money to individuals they believe were involved in serious corruption, enticing them to resign and leave. My question is, was this government about accountability or trying to push others out of the way to bring their own people in and compensate them with jobs? What is going on here? I think that is my question, Jimmy.
Mr. Sia, I believe your latter suggestion is in place. There seems to be a purging going on. It was understood by this administration that there were a lot of people in government that were incompetent, that they weren't fulfilling their roles. So the objective is to replace them. But I think it's important that they do it in the right way if that's their intention. They follow due process of law. They give everybody a fair shake, because at the end of the day, it's important to be fair to everybody. If they do it any other way, then there will be retributions in the future. You mentioned the LTA specifically. Now, the LTA is one of those technical organizations. Either you need to know telecommunication law, or you need to know the technicalities of the telecommunication industry. And admittedly, not many commissioners or anyone I saw endowed with that type of knowledge. So, okay, if they're not competent enough to serve there, why then accuse them of impropriety? That is a whole nother thing. Are you not competent, or have you been engaged in financial discrepancies? Which one is it? And because they're all over the place, we can't really put our finger on what is the problem. If you want to remove them, if you want to purge the government of people who are not competent, then that's just one thing. We notice that this is going on in several facets, in several institutions of the government. They are removing people, so, but there has been an issue with the way they are doing it, especially for tenured personnel. I think they're setting up a bad precedent. I understand that and it's very early in the game. I think we're 7 months into this presidency. There's enough time to finish to do this. Why be so abrasive to all of these people are Liberians? And even if that is the objective, there's a better way to do it. So to answer your question, this thing looks like a purging of the system. They are trying to rid themselves of seditions or people who are not competent for the very positions. And we will know if it's fair or not by their replacements. If you replace one person with an equally incompetent person, then you know it's just partisanship. But if you're replacing the people with competent people, then we know you're trying to do something. So we still on the fence, you know, and we'll see what they will do in the future. But if it's as much of the same as business as usual, then we'll be inside for long.
Dr. Pearson, I'm now understanding what the government is up to here. Are they fighting corruption because the individuals were suspended by President Boakai on grounds that they were involved into corruption and they were placed on an investigation? The investigation is ongoing. They resigned, and now we're hearing news that they're being offered money to resign, and not only that they reached a deal. Take the money, and we will not come after you. The whole investigation team will throw it through the window. You'll be a free man. We replace you with our people, and then what? Is that what's going on here? Because that's what Front Page is reporting here.
Thank you, Dennis. You know, there's something.
I need to bring your glasses, then I'll be Dennis.
Anthony, there's something there. Sorry about that. There's something, Anthony, about African politics is that we have this tendency of being very vocal and very critical of those who are in power, with the hopes that when we come to power, we will do things differently, and not that we'll do things differently, but would even do things better. But then, unfortunately, what we get to see a lot of the time is that we begin to see a pattern here, that as soon as people take power, unfortunately, they all start to grapple for positions. And sadly, these positions end up in the hands of party faithful, party loyalists, ends up in the hands of family members, and at the end of the day, what they feed into is bad governance, and that's why beginning to play out here right now. We saw when the Boakai administration came to power, there was this struggle for position. Now they are all trying to settle in, getting people out to settle in. Now the next thing we're seeing that creeping up now is bad governance. So we understand that when you have a tenure position, and I don't want to beat that tenure to death because we talk about that tenure a lot. When you have a tenure position, you're trying to violate tenure. One of the things you can do is to negotiate with the person whose tenure is not yet expired and see if they can pay them off. Okay, and we know that we have some history of this happening in Liberia. So if that's what President Boakai and his guys want to do, rather, I don't see why they can just get ahead with it and pay people off, rather than trying to bribe people, off the job, which is another form of corruption as well. And so it's worrisome for me. President Boakai and his team seems to not want to accept working in the format of governance. Instead, they want to take shortcuts. And I can see why they want to do these things, because, like we're saying, Liberians are looking for something new. And instead of us seeing something new, is sad. Answering to answer your question is sad. There's nothing new that is happening. And we're seeing the same old faction going on. President Boakai and his team, like Mr. Eastman said, they're purging the system, wanting to get their own people in there. And at the end of the day, when you have everybody yes man, yes sir to you, PPCs is going to be compromised. Not only that, PPCs are going to be compromised, the LACC is going to be compromised, the GSC is going to be compromised. So if you're using the audit reports to pressure people to resign so that you can take office, then you have no good intent for the very position you're taking. So you're going to only do the same thing that they did when they were there. You don't have an honest approach to curbing corruption. So I think it's sad, and I know we have more time to discuss this. I don't want to take up all the time from Gibson, but it is sad that we have to begin on this note, Mr. CA.
And Gibson, if you follow the story, Front Page is reporting that they reached out to Abdullah Kamara, who is the executive head of LTA, and asking, hey, we have in our possession a copy of a check in the tune of $25,000 that came from your institution, purportedly given to one of the commissioners, or that allegedly you are, coercing to resign. And he said, well, I will contact the other commissioners and I will get back to you, but reduce your inquiry to a letter and send it to us. We'll discuss and get back to you. That was his response. What do you make of that? And the whole fight that this administration is actually trying to fight corruption at these institutions?
Yeah. Well, first I want to start off by saying, the boycott administration, when they were running as a ticket boycott and coup, they ran on the arrest mantra, right? One of the R's in it was rule of law. So if you're talking about wanting to uphold the rule of law and respecting it and making sure that rule of law is brought back into practice, you cannot try to disrespect what the court has set as a precedence and say, you know what, we'll go ahead and try to sneak money under the table to pay you people off so you can go away. If that was going to be the case, then what was the essence of you all pushing for rule of law being practiced? For this administration to be moving in such a rocky state where there's so many incidents that have occurred, where people are talking about whether it's corrupt acts taking place of people wanting to pay someone off because they overpromised certain positions to people and they could not deliver. So they say, you know what, we're in a bind. So let's try to see if we can pay these people off or threaten them for them to go away. That's not how governance should be done in a country that should be upholding, or an administration that should be upholding rule of law. If you respect what the court had said, let the people finish their terms. But then when you go to try to get and seek information from some of these very entities, there is smoke and mirrors. They don't give you the full truth. Why would they need to go ahead and present a letter when the proof is there? You can either deny it or say this is true. But you cannot go ahead and play games as if this is not a government that is being ran by people who should be seen as experts or technocrats. But they barely have that at this point. It's a bunch of corrupt acts taking place in all levels, whether it's putting family members in positions or paying people off or trying to put your countrymen and countrywomen in areas that they don't even have expertise in. How are you trying to rescue a nation or rescue what was destroyed by the CDC if you're not doing the true form of governance and respecting the rule of law and respecting difference of opinions and what people stand for?
Thank you, Gibson. And I have to come back to you, Jimmy. We have to dive deeper into this. How can this best be described then? Is this deception? Is this business as usual? Is this a real fight against corruption? What do you make of this? How can this best be described?
That's a good question. And any real progressive government administration will definitely have a pattern of operation and following by using certain rules as guidance. Now, if you claim to come to rescue and to reestablish expertise, then that is what you should be doing. But if you're only coming to put your partisans and what I'm understanding, a lot of times it's not even the party, UP partisans. It's just those who are in the graces of certain people that are being put in these positions. So it appears that this administration has not set good ground rules yet by which they will govern. And I think it's a big mistake. I think if you set your ground rules, set how the procedures, how you're going to proceed, and follow that throughout the tenure of the administration, you will have much more success. But if the way it looks ad hoc and arbitrary and at a whim of a moment and contradictory, it's in such disarray that it's not going to be very successful. It's not too late to turn this ship around and use guiding laws, principles, policies to govern. You cannot govern without proper policies. We understand that not only at the LTA, we understand that they're bringing back diplomats that were appointed by the CDC government in the recent times, and they are accused of not having been properly trained. Again, we agree if we have people not competent to do the job should be removed. That's not the problem. The problem here is, are you treating them fairly?
And Jimmy,
are you paying? Yeah.
Jimmy, I have to ask though. If you commission an audit, and based on the audit report, you announced that these people were involved in serious corruption and malpractices, and now you are saying, well, if you resign, we give you a package, we throw the whole other thing through the window. So what is the goal of the Boakai administration here? And my next question is, can they actually run into legal trouble here? Because you already announced to the world that these people are corrupt. And so we are auditing them, and then there will be prosecution. Can these people turn around and sue the Boakai administration for defamation of character? Jimmy?
There is definitely, yeah. There's definitely a lot of contradictions. And these contradictions are stemming from lack of policy, lack of using certain guidance through, across the board. And that is where they're already finding themselves getting tripped up. I think they will have legal problems because as long as they're not transparent, as long as the rules are changing for different scenarios and different people, the rules are changing, they're going to run into a lot of problems. If you're going to govern as a...
Jimmy, you automatically got muted. I don't know what happened. Go ahead.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
If you're going to govern, you have to treat all Liberians fairly. And that is what I think the danger of this administration is. They're going to be, if they're not careful how they do all the things they're doing, they're going to be looked at as an unfair organization, and it's going to be difficult to govern.
Thank you. Mr. Gibson, is the Boakai administration setting up itself for what may be a legal trouble here? Because you said these people are involved in something nefarious, corruption, allegation they raise against the individuals, and they suspended them, initiated an investigation. While they are suspended and going through investigation, and now you say, well, you resign, we cut you loose. Can they turn around and sue the government for defamation?
I believe there's room to do it, but I mean, we have to be realistic when it comes to Liberia. A lot of these things, even when you take it to the high courts, it's often some maneuvering, some foul play in it to where it's not even respected, and people go without any type of punishment. The government won't be punished because the government is already at this point showing that they are strong enough to make a simple call, whether it's President Boykai's advisor, legal advisor. He can simply make a call and say, y'all need to go ahead and stop this from even seeing the light of day, to where the government will not be held responsible. I mean, we've seen it time and time again with every administration, where they get involved with how court decisions are made. They play around and then they do the political play, and then swing a whole lot of different things in terms of dangling a carrot of, let's say, certain dollars will be exchanged if you go ahead and rule in this person's favor. So I don't see the government, the Boycott administration, being held responsible for anything legally.
Dr. Pearson, so is this business as usual 2.0, business as usual at its worst? Is it this is the real fight against corruption?
You see, Mr. C, I don't think it's business as usual. You know, the longer we see President Joekai and his team take the wrong path in governance, it begins to get clear that we start to question the very doubt they threw on the past administration to begin with. Because now we're beginning to ask ourselves, were their accusations genuine, or were they just making those things up as they went along just to gain the sympathy of the people and gain their votes? Because if they claim, as they did, that the past government was so corrupt that everything was deadly and bad and in the slum, then it should be easier to find the dike on these guys and prosecute them, right? But then if you come and tell us that you think that they did everything wrong and there are clear-cut evidence, pieces of evidence that can indict them, then why are you bribing them in order to get them off the scene so that you can govern? It means to say you don't have anything on them. And even if you have something on them, like you said, Mr. C, and you start to take bribe, you start to bribe them, you make yourself vulnerable to even go after them any further. So I think what we're seeing, I don't think anybody's going to sue them. I don't think any CDC is going to sue them. What I think happening here is that we have dirty people trying to clean up dirty people, and the whole system is dirty, and there's nothing you can do to clean it, because those who came to clean are as dirty as those who came to clean up. You know, and it's sad for Liberia. And I think at the end of the day, what I'm seeing is that it's the vulnerability of our country. Our country is vulnerable. You got people who are not even making substantial amount of money to sustain themselves, now find themselves in top level positions in government that they never had in their life. Some of them, some other guys held position at a very low level managerial. Some of them were never even managers in their entire life. And even if they were managers, they didn't even hold $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 every week or every month to say as a take-home check. Now they go and sit somewhere where they can take $25,000 and give it to somebody as a bribe to get rid of them so they can sit on the position. It tells you that we're in a big trouble, Mr. C.
And at that point now, do we really know the goal of the audit? What was the audit intended for in the first place?
It goes back to what maybe President we are saying, and maybe the CDCians are saying. It was only what we refer to as a scarecrow. Used to drive the birds from the farm so they can take away the farm and pillage the farm. They see what the farm was in pillage to begin with. And it is sad. It is sad for our country. So listen, Mr. C. If President Joekai is serious about corruption, Graceville will not be a minister of state after he went and took money from NASCAR. Jacob Akadi will not be a Nokai after he was accused by LACC for squandering $700,000 that went in, just in smoke. You know, we yet issue about the 285 machines that are yet to be accounted for since May is going in gentleman agreement that cannot be concluded. You know, we'll be talking about the $22 million that were initiated for roads, and $8 million was used in the road as part of them. We first started from the beginning of the dry season. So what are we talking about here? And then the president himself is gallivanting on all kind of travels around the place, traveling and not bringing any returns, only to take the DSA and the travel allowances to catch up before the fiscal year can end, so that they can exhaust the budget, the national budget, before the fiscal year can end. Where are we headed to? Who's running the country? Who's advising Mr. Joekai?
And Gibson, you know that there was a commission audit requested by the president. He had his goal. With what we're hearing now, is it clear now what the president goal actually is now, or actually was when he initiated or called for the audit in the first place? Because the individuals are under investigation. What can Bwaka do now? Or what action should we see from the Bwaka? Because now it's looking as though the whole goal here was to get these folks out of there and replace them with, to say, if for lack of better word, Bwaka loyalists. So
Yeah.
what does the president do now so that it doesn't appear that way?
I mean, at this point, there's been a lot of contradictions. As you say that he wanted to do the audit, but then in the process of doing the audit, you decide to try to pay people under the table. I think what you can do at this point is either you own up to what is being done, which I highly doubt will even occur. Everybody will continue to deny what has taken place, because nobody's going to go ahead and try to go push it any further, because the government, the way it's set up, they're not going to go ahead and they're going to put too many roadblocks in place. I think what can be done with this administration is just to allow the people to serve their terms, or try to figure out where to place them or something. But at the end of the day, you can't continue to make contradictory happenings occur. We've seen it with all these audits that are occurring, the investigations that have occurred when it comes to what's happened at LDEA. It's been 3 months and some change, right? So it's like all of these investigations and audits that are taking place in this administration, they're holding on to it. They're not releasing anything to the public. So I think it's just going to be one of those things where they will continue to deny, and somebody will eventually accept the payments of the $25,000, and all this will go away. So that's what's going to happen.
Gentlemen, my final question on this subject, and this is, I am out of words for what being reported by Front Page here. So taxpayer dollars were used for this audit. What should the Liberian people be thinking now concerning this whole matter? The government used taxpayer money to carry on this audit with the goal to hold people they believe were involved in significant corruption accountable. And here we are, they are hearing that they spend their money on a scam just to replace these people with loyalists of the Unity Party. Is that what they should believe now? Should they continue to trust this administration, that will uphold the rule of law and accountability and transparency? Why should the Liberian people be thinking and believing at this point? Jimmy, you go with your final round here on this subject. Why should the Liberian people be thinking that? They are losing hope? Will they give them hope?
Okay. If you want to build confidence, if you want to increase the hope of a people, you need consistency. One, you need a set of principles or guidances that apply across the board. This will not give people hope. If you're going to use audits and then not carry them through, eventually they're going to know that they're going to see this and they're going to see the loophole in it. They're going to say, well, they will carry it. They will never go through with the audit. So it is undermining the credibility of the administration. These tactics they're using to remove people, it is not healthy. It is not wholesome. And it will come back and bite them. You have to have a system. That's what they need to do now. They need to put a system in place. If we want to remove somebody incompetent from this ministry or from this organization, the system we're going to use, we're not going to accuse him or her of corruption. And then if they move, then we don't do it. No. You put a system in place. Before you even ask them to move, you outline how you proceed to remove them. If it will be through investigation, it will be through audits, and you follow through. But simply starting an audit on somebody, then when they leave, then you drop the audit, that will undermine the credibility. That doesn't show that you have a system. It means you're using all kinds of chicanery and whatnot to get things by, and a government shouldn't operate that way. I think they need to snip this in the bud and have a proper system of replacing or removing people that is fair and transparent, so that all Liberians can feel secure where they are. But this way is not the way to do it.
And Gibson, do you think this has the propensity for the Liberian people to begin to get the feeling that this government is more of the same pronouncement, that there will be actions and accountability, and at the end of the day, it's just talk and no action?
Yeah, I mean, one would hope that Liberians are not operating from that line of being sycophants. I think we've had a discussion before about sycophancy being the order of the day. When one party comes in, one regime comes in, people switch to being supporters, diehard supporters, to where they would defend it, even if the proof is right there in their faces. So I think the country will continue to be split on holding these people accountable, because the benefactors, the partisans who are attached to those supporters, will continue to have them go on various radio stations in various areas to spread their messaging and to support the wrongdoings, because that's what has been practiced for so long. So I think you will have those on the opposition side that will speak about it, but it won't be to the level of where the people who are actually in support of UP will not come out and say that they're against it. But one will hope that Liberians will band together and say this is wrong, and actually call out the wrongs, instead of just supporting blindly what is just not proper when it comes to governing.
And that, you're saying, you get a final word on this?
Yeah, Mr. CA. The thing is that you see, when it comes to Liberia, when you campaign hard on the subject, all you have to do when you come into power the first few months is just to show off like you're being serious about what you campaign about, and then when everybody feel at peace, and then you go back to business as usual, or even worse. So from what I've seen so far, take for instance asset recovery. Where are we with asset recovery? There was this big noise about asset recovery, and then bam, it's in the wind. And then we had a situation again with the three guys from the We administration that were the big three that were arrested and put in jail. The first two that were put in jail. What is his name? They're still looking for what is his name? Samuel Tue. All right, but they put guys in jail. There was a big show in Liberia. Everybody was clapping and dancing, and then a day later they got bailed out. And where is that story going? That story is almost dead and gone. And then we hear about the central bank governor suspension. It was a big news again in town. And now when we look, some of the governors started giving resignation on the table. The burger come in and clapping and say, I received your resignation in good faith. And then replace the very governor that you say corrupt with other corrupt individuals. Someone is coming from a bank that is breaking down, that you took loan from, and you can't even account for the IB that he ran that is in red. Now you're making central bank governor when he was the one giving you loan when you are broke. What sense does that make? You're making another person deputy governor who owes the very bank is going to be governor in $90,000. He's in arrears $90,000. Default. His credit is in default. He credited $90,000 and did not pay. And then you make the man governor of the same bank. I mean, there is a lot that we hope for from this administration, and that we're not seeing. Like Gibson said it right. And there are people who support this regime. All they got to do is just show them that they're doing something. That's all. And then once they feel the people think they're doing something, and then they turn it back and do something different. And our Liberian people will forget about everything, and then we'll move on. Nobody talking about the asset recovery again is gone. Nobody talking about the two guys that went to jail, that one in the past. Nobody talking about the bank governor, that one going in the past. And everything it's just come and go. It's sad. It's sad, brother. See, it's sad.
And Dr. Pearson, that's a good point you made there, because one of the things that the central bank audit unearthed is the fact that loans were given to staffers at the very bank and they defaulted on their loans. And now the president turned around and appointed a deputy governor who is in default or defaulted on a loan in the tune of $90,000. So I'm asking, what is this? Jimmy, what is this? Because you are saying, hey, this bank governor shouldn't be here because he's the head of this entity. There's so many things happening here, including people taking loan and defaulting. So my man, get out of here, you are suspended. And then you're bringing somebody in who also owes the central bank. It's funny. Folks, this is Focus on Liberia. Of course, this is the hour of politics. I'm Anthony here hosting. We are discussing two main issues: questionable resignation at LTA that we just dealt with sufficiently. The next topic that we are going to is criticisms of CSA's boss, Josiah Joekai. Mr. Josiah Joekai is the Director General of the Civil Service Agency. In one of the press conferences at the Ministry of Information, he recommended in that press conference publicly that the city mayor of Monrovia should fire individuals believed to be in a constant habit of venting invectives on the president and other officials, and those people should be taken out. Yeah, it is. Their own words in, they said here, employment services with the Monrovia Corporation is hereby terminated with immediate effect. Said termination emanates from your consistent and deliberate action portrayed on social media by enraging insults at His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Yimambuaka, Senior President of the Republic of Liberia, and government officials, including the government of Liberia, relentlessly without any regards for your official position as public relations officer of the Monrovia City Corporation. So this particular one was referring to somebody who served as public relations at the Monrovia City Corporation. But similar language has been used to all of the 9 persons who were dismissed, that they have been dismissed for their constant or consistent behavior of raining insults at government officials, including the president of the Republic of Liberia. And so newspapers have been on it. This paper, I think this is front page reporting, purge or illegal dismissal. Some people believe the dismissal of these guys are completely unconstitutional or illegal. And then we see here another news article here, carry this with the title, Unconstitutional Wrongful Dismissal. Lawmakers slam CSA and MCC. So the lawmakers are unhappy, very, very unhappy, with what's happening, there. And talking about lawmakers, we have Senator Darius Dillon. Senator Darius Dillon talk about this. Senator Darius Dillon said this is a wrong move. Senator Amara Conner spoke about it. So many senators, so many politicians. And then we have a new pro-democracy group calling itself STAND, headed by Momba Modu, is saying, even calling on Josiah Yimambuaka to terminate the employment of the CSA boss, Josiah Joekai, saying that his action will undermine the peace and stability of the country, and that his action is unlawful for him to recommend dismissal rather, of these nice pro-seditions, from government, and that these people should be reinstated. One of the senators is saying these people should be reinstated. And also Manti Colley keep on swinging against the CSA boss, not forgetting John Molu, former Auditor General, who supported the Unity Party, that this action by the Unity Party is wrong. So the CSA boss is under tremendous pressure and criticism for his recommendation. But in their letter, they said, well, because these people are in a habit, but they are also saying that these individuals have violated the standing order of the civil service. And so they have some of the things that they quoted, and we're going to bring them to you later on in the discussion. Let me start with you, Gibson. so many condemnations, so many criticisms, so many disagreements. Like there's an overwhelming disagreement with the action on the part of the CSA and the Moral City Corporation for relieving these guys of their employment, that this is unconstitutional. How do you see this?
Yeah, I mean, as far as it goes, it definitely is unconstitutional when you look at. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, you're lying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional when you look at it from the fact that these gentlemen were not given due process when it comes to evidence being produced about said words being exchanged about the president and certain people in the administration. There's no proof that was put out there by the CSA or even giving them, that due process that they need. Secondly, based off of the different codes that the director cited when it comes to why he gave reasons for why these people were let go or dismissed, it still doesn't call out anything about using derogatory terms against government officials. It didn't say anything about that. So I think from this point, it seems as if it's a move to censor individuals who are not of the same mindset as supporters of the Boykai Kung administration. And that is sending a very bad message to not only the people within government, but also people outside of government who are looking to possibly, support any initiatives that government is trying to take on, or even donors that are trying to give dollars to certain things. You can't politicize every fabric of government. If these are civil servants, they are not people who have to be supporting just one party. If you look at how CSAs are set up across the world, they're not focused on what party do you belong to. They focus on how is the day-to-day affairs of said entity being handled. They are able to manage anything when it comes to human resources issues, payroll. Those are things that the director should be trying to prioritize rather than trying to look for die-hard loyalists to support his administration. The administration has already won. They need to focus on doing the work of the CSA and not trying to dismiss people who are not in support of what President Boykai stands for. They're still showing up to work and doing the work. They're not obstructing the way work is being done at the entities that they belong to. So it's sending a very bad message to the outside world that this has become a state where you have to be a yes man. You have to be a part of this particular party in order for you to be able to maintain your role in your position. And that's a bad precedence that's being set. If we look at the law that was signed under the We administration when it comes to the Kamara Act, that's a clear violation of someone's free speech. You can't violate someone's free speech and then come back with quote unquote codes that you found within the law to justify said wrongdoing. But when people look further and dig into what you've just quoted, there's nothing that talks about derogatory words, that talks about unethical words and any of those things. Those types of call outs that he made, if you're going to go ahead and make a statement like that, you have to come correct and actually be concise in how you're trying to justify something that you did wrong. And from what I've seen and read in newspapers, I'm quite sure he was in a position under the WEA administration. Prior to it, to the WEA administration taking office, he decided to resign from his role, but he made a lot of statements and the WEA administration didn't target him. So why have that mindset coming in and wanting to target people who are still supporters of the CDC? If they're doing their work, there should be no reason for that.
And that appears in, let me read the reliance of the civil service for a recommendation to the MCC for having these guys relieved of their roles at the MCC. This is the Civil Service Standing Order of 2012. This is chapter 4, section 4.2.1. When a case of misconduct or general inefficiency is brought to the attention of an agency head or the director general meaning the director general of the civil service, disciplinary proceedings shall be initiated only after the employee or officer concerned has been given adequate opportunity to exculpate himself. What is the word exculpate? It means to show or declare that someone is now guilty of wrongdoing. Synonym of this word, absolve, acquit, exonerate, vindicate. So actually, the law is talking about due process must be given these individuals. They should be given an opportunity to exonerate themselves when an act of misconduct is being reported against them. They should be given that due process. Now, further in the law, it talks about the penalty of misconduct. 2 letters of warning should be given. And after 2 letters of warning being given, and if such individual continue with that behavior, then you can withhold salary. That's when you go to dismissal. But they must be given due process. Now, let me read to you also section 4, 2.2. If in the opinion of the agency head or director general, an employee fails to exculpate himself, the following penalties shall apply. 2 letters of warning, followed by dismissal, and so on and so forth. So my question to you now, that don't you think the civil service have a strong reliance here that this is a misconduct on the part of these individuals, and that's why they acted to recommend their dismissal?
I think the first thing we should say before answering your question, Mr. C, is that freedom of speech is a fundamental right under our Constitution, our 1986 Constitution. And when that Constitution was tampered with by the Penal Code, that was stressed by the PRC government at the time, and we started having all kind of things called Degree 88A, other kind of things that started coming up before that 1986 Constitution. All of those restrictions on our speech was totally rejected. When President Weah came to power, if you can recall, Anthony, he made a speech on social media where he said, because people were insulting him all around, he said, if anybody caught, nobody should think that if they insult him, will go free.
Yeah, he said, well, anybody insult me will now walk free in the street of Monrovia.
The Unity Party, the opposition, all of us got up and we beat on him and said that he was, in fact, Darius didn't say it was a mark of a dictator to have said that. You know, and then we come now, after all is said and done, we come to this point. Let me say this to you, Mr. Anthony. First of all, look at the letter that was written those guys. Why it is illegal to begin with. The letter does not cite the Civil Service Standing Order. It does not cite section 4 and 4.2.2. It didn't cite that. The letter did not even cite any provisions from the Monrovia City Corporation HR policy. The letter cited the Code of Conduct. And the Code of Conduct that is cited is section 6.2. All right, and 6.2 said it's also vague to that if you carry on, using profane some kind of little language and things against people, blah, 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 you can be held accountable. But what I'm driving here at is that no laws were broken, Mr. CA. No laws were broken. I think what I hear people argue, from what I've heard people argue from the United States standpoint, who are much more civilized society, is that if you abuse social media, your employers have the right to execute punitive measure against you. But that's not what is cited in the letter. And we don't have provisions in terms of how we abuse social media in our country. We don't have no provisions on those things. Are we looking to developing those provisions? It's yet to be seen. Even the United States is struggling, and even Europe. I think England is the only country so far that have a strong social media law as we speak right now, and other countries are trying to follow suit. So what am I saying, Mr. C? I think those guys did not violate any laws. The only regret that I have is that we want a decent society. We want a society where our young people will be groomed, and, with certain professional expertise and certain professional and conduct that would set them up for success, even if they left Liberia. That's what I want to see. But in the current standing Liberia, did the UP government have the right? Did Josiah Joekai have the right to fire those guys? I would say no. The code of conduct will end on this, Mr. C. The code of conduct that was cited after clarifying that the standing order did not apply to the guys. The code of conduct that was cited, hasn't it been validated by the entire executive branch of government? Out of 100% of them are supposed to declare the asset, only 26% declare the asset. And per the code of conduct, government appointed officials should declare the asset before taking office. So we cannot implement laws haphazardly. If we want to implement laws in the country and we mean business to move our country forward, we got to be balanced in the execution of the law. So that at the end of the day, we set the precedents that those who come after us will not say, oh, we just did it because of partisan level, or we did it because we wanted to be political, but we did it out of system, out of procedure, out of respect for the rule of law. So it's sad. It's sad to see our brothers. I will not call them citizens. I will say Liberians are taking off their job because somebody wants to show off that they're working, for political reason. That's sad.
And Jimmy, when they happen, a letter during the administration of CDC was placed in circulation. That letter came from then General Minister Wilhelmina Piso-Sedita, who dismissed an employee of the General Ministry for insulting in the public space, and cited this very chapter 4, section 4, 2.2 of the Civil Service Standing Order, that, hey, you cannot behave in this way as an employee of government, and this is something you have done, so you are hereby dismissed, and that person was dismissed. So when the criticism was coming against the administration, say, hey, there's precedence here. The past administration fired somebody for this very behavior. My question to you, Jimmy, if their argument is something to actually look at, how is it similar? Because this is the CSA director recommending dismissal. In the CDC case, it was the minister who was acting against an employee under her supervision for behavior she deemed as misconduct. In this case, is the CSA boss say, hey, you over there, these people are misbehaving, let them go. Is this similar in any way, in your opinion?
There's a theme that we hearing every single day now. CDC did it, so we do it. We can't keep hearing because they did it, so we did it. This administration that was coming in was supposed to be the mature administration, the knowledgeable administration, the administration.
You don't think this is precedent, the citing? You think this is an excuse?
Yes, and I will tell you why. First of all, we agree. Just what Dr. Pearson was alluding to. We want professionals. We want to groom professional Liberians that they can go anywhere and work. When you're a public servant, there's certain professional attitude you have to. You can't be publicly involved in politics in a way that people don't feel comfortable when you're going to, render services to them. You have to be balanced. Of course, you can have your opinion, but in the duty of your job, in the performing your job, you have to show a level of peace, calm, and fairness. So, why I hold this administration is, if you notice that some behavior is wrong, the first thing you're supposed to do is to try to correct that behavior. just like you were reading. You're supposed to tell that ministry, that director, we have reports that these things are ongoing. We need to tell all members of your organizations that these things are unbecoming and they will result in disciplinary action. Your aim is to correct the behavior. That's what it should be. But if your aim is not to correct the behavior, if your aim is directed at purging seditions or removing people who do not support you, that's when you take these actions. But again, you can't be a government like that, especially we were small society. If you don't be fair to all, we come from the other day, we came from a war. We have seen all sorts of things, the biasness in tribalism, the biasness in partyism. We don't need that again. This administration has to be systematic and fair and transparent across the board. If their objective is to correct behavior, not dismiss people. And over and over again, we see people are being removed from their job, fairly or unfairly, even tenured positions. So it is clear that there's a different objective here. It is not to correct behavior. It is not to give every Liberian a chance, a fair chance, but it's to remove certain people that you don't want. That is not the way to start off this tenure. It's a bad way to start off, and I hope we see a change in the whole attitude of the administration.
And Gibson, whichever way you look at this, is this generating a very conscious discussion about how employees of government should conduct themselves, whether or not they are at work or off work? The fact that they serve in government and they are a representation of the government, because somewhere in one of the regulations, it read that whether on the job or outside of a job, as an employee of government, you should exhibit behavior representative of your country, right? Can this generate a serious conversation? Because if you look at the behavior of these guys, some people are arguing this is free speech, but the words coming from their mouth against a sitting president, I don't think that is decent enough, right? Would it lead to a serious conversation of how people should conduct themselves, without denying them their right of talking politics?
Yeah, I think this dialogue, like every other situation that has occurred, has always started great dialogue, and I'm hoping that civil service organizations will take it a step further and approach the legislatures and have them try to create some type of legislation that will protect their speech within the confines of the law, of course, and really trying to identify what is appropriate, what is deemed inappropriate, so a lot of these utterances will not occur again. I think it makes a big difference when the dialogue is just not taking place, but you're actually having some action occur. You're taking it to your legislatures, to the feet of their legislatures, and saying, this is what we would like to see happen as civil society organizations. Our rights need to be protected. We can't have administrations come in and continue to make their own, laws per se, and we're the ones that are left disenfranchised. So I think it's going to start a dialogue, but it needs to go a step further from a dialogue to taking it to the legislature to see what can be done to put this into legislation.
Pearson?
Look. When it comes off the letter and comes to the nitty gritty, Josiah Joekai is putting the country in a very tricky situation. Freedom of speech is not something you can easily regulate. That's why the Constitution says cannot be restricted. It cannot be suppressed. And not only that, Liberia has also signed up to several international protocols, including the international let me call it law, International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. We also signed up to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. All of these laws, in particular, govern free speech. We also in 2019 we signed the Camara and Gibson talk about that. All of those things govern. So who sits in the office and decide which speech is bad and require dismissal, and which one is not bad and require dismissal? You know, I mean, he shouldn't even be treading that route. I don't think we should be treading that route. And I would say, for a fact, in this country where we all stay answering, there are particular areas under the laws that our offices are very particular about, the HIPAA policies and other ethical violations like sexual and gender-based violence, stuff like that, or any form of abuse, sexual abuse. And you know what they do, Anthony? Every year we take classes. I don't know about other people, but for me in my office, every year we take classes. I do like what? Like 20 to 25 hours of classes on those areas that the state don't want me to violate every single year. And not only that, we are reminded all through the year what those policies are. All right. So they don't just hold me to every speech I give, and somebody sitting up there with interpret what my speech is that considered a violation. Everything that will be considered a violation is clearly written out and spelled out. The civil service code is ambiguous, very ambiguous. All right. And I would say, Josiah Joekai, I see he put us on a circular talking about anybody who speak this other than whatever the case is, use the social media will be reprimanded. I mean, we shouldn't be doing that to begin with. All right. And my advice to us would be, listen, our country is struggling coming out of a place where we've already demonized Liberia and made it to look appear to be so dark and dirty as a country, like the you people will put in. Now they cannot keep doing the same thing that they accuse the other regime of, and hoping to think that the international community will look at us different. They're not going to look at us different. So the push we are past the Camara Abdullah Camara Act in 2019 to not close radio station, to allow journalists to speak their mind, to allow citizens to speak their mind. They say when you insult people, it's not crime until you can go to court and be proven by law, certain level of justification. Now, then, who make a civil servant director? The adjudicator of the law to determine whose speech is criminal and whose speech is not. I think we should be very careful. And like you said, Mr. C, they didn't even give the boys enough education, like I'm saying. They didn't even give them the warning letters. They just took a political action to show that it's working, and this is bad for our country.
I think somewhere was said that they were giving warning letters. I interviewed two of the dismissed employees. They said no, at no point in time were they ever giving warning letters, not even verbal warnings that they were ever given. They were never giving anything like that. They denied that. But I remember there was, at least someone said to me that they were actually served warning letters. So I really want to see the warning letters, because in as much as the institution say, well, these people were warned and they did not desist, they should have copies of the warning letters that they gave them. The only thing we're seeing is the letter dismissing them. So where are the warning letters those guys were issued to prove their point that they were warned, based on the civil service standing orders? They were given 2 letters of warnings. They were informed, they were given the opportunity to exonerate themselves, and they continue in this very manner. And so we had to let them go. We really want to see Jimmy, let's do one last thing before we get to the callers who are standing by, right? Let's put up our analytical caps here. Let's look at, because if you look at the civil service of Liberia, civil service agency, it's almost like the HR department of the government. What are HR departments responsible for? Wherever you work, is this the HR department that fires anybody, or is it the administrative arm that does the firing? So because I'm looking at Is it just a recommendation? Because I mean, they actually make a recommendation. Hey, you the administrative head of MCC. Based on what I see here, fire these people. I mean, can HR recommend dismissal, or HR there to adjudicate employment matters, payroll, like Pearson said, and other things? And if you look at the CSA also, anytime any employee of government have issue with dismissal, suspension, and anything like that, they have a thing, if in an arbitration unit that was activated by the Director General, where you can go and see redress. You can carry a complaint there. And now, if a recommendation is coming from him, how can he now look into the matter that might be coming from any agencies of government? So talk to me. Let's analyze that. Should they be recommending dismissal as well?
Okay, so definitely the civil service agency is supposed to regulate employment within the government. And they're supposed to set the rules, and they're supposed to do the screening and all those sort of things that an HR department may do.
Yeah, employment.
But when it comes to the day-to-day, but when it comes to the day-to-day monitoring of employees, that should be done by the agency in charge. And once you've set goals, or once you set guidelines and policies, you have to make sure that the directors, the ministers, they know what these guidelines are. And so if anyone is violating these policies, you need to remind them that they have to take corrective action. But to directly dictate who is fired and who is not, I think that is unprecedented. I have never seen that in Liberia before, that the civil service acting as if that the people work directly for the CSA. They do not work for the CSA. The CSA only process their documents, but they work for the ministries or wherever they're assigned. So to see somebody acting on exerting pressure on employees, government employees, I think this is unprecedented. I have never seen it in all my life, and I think we're setting a bad precedent. I think the ministries.
And Jimmy, before you land your thought there, could this section 2.2? I mean, this is chapter. No, this is actually section 4, 4.2.2, right? It reads here: if in the opinion of the agency head in this case is the what? The city mayor, all right, or the director general. The director general now is the CSA boss. An employee fails to exculpate himself, the following penalty shall apply. So that 2% is talking about, does that mean that if the city mayor can act, the CSA boss can act? Is that why the CSA board recommended dismissal here?
What I'm getting from this, you have to give the employee a chance to exculpate themselves from, in other words, exonerate, find a way to get them explain their actions and correct it.
Exactly.
And this is what I see a failure for us to do. And it's important that we do this because this administration wants to look fair and transparent. They do not want to give the impression of simply trying to get rid of other Liberians. And I will sing this song all day long. That is not the kind of administration you want to run. A biased administration that some people not feel that they're being attacked and ran after, as the big word to use, a witch hunt. You cannot send that type of message to a small country like ours. We need to change that. If it was done before, then you can't repeat the same mistakes of the past and expect Liberia to be different. It is important that we preach fairness to all Liberians and giving all Liberians a break. If we're going to go after opponents or people who didn't side with us and not show fairness, then history will judge us. And remember, every 6 years there's another election. I think they're making a lot of blunders by targeting anyone who is not in favor. What we need to do, if somebody's acting out of the way, unprofessional in there, we tell them that you're being unprofessional and you need to correct your action. And if they don't correct their action, if they don't exculpate themselves from the situation, then we take actions. But just to simply fire them, I think we're jumping the gun here. It's unfair.
And Gibson, you get a final words here, then we'll go to the callers who are standing by. Another school of thought is that the Director General is trying to elevate the discussion that we need to punish bad behavior. This is bad behavior on the part of the young people who will be future leaders. They're not setting good examples here. This is gross insubordination to the head of state. I mean, how you go on social media and then you insult the president consistently. Some people believe that the CSA boss is trying to hold these young people accountable. Now, so he's trying to identify bad behavior and trying to do something about it. But now others are saying, well, if that is the goal here, whether or not he's wrong, but he's elevating something here, right? So why he's not consistent? We have Majabate, though appointed, all right, exhibited made utterances that were, not befitting of an appointee. Now other people disagree, say, well, Josiah is a boss of civil service. That man is not a civil servant, so he can't go there. Other people argue. Other people say, well, what's about Yeka Koluba? Look at what Yeka Koluba says compared to these young people. Even if Josiah it's not his right to hold Yeka Koluba accountable, he can criticize him for that behavior against the president, including the president's wife. So if this is a indignation about people exhibiting this behavior, he shouldn't be selective. Some people argue, say, well, the men are civil service, but so he dealing with civil service. Does that argument hold here?
No, it doesn't hold any weight. It doesn't hold any weight. If you're trying to
why not?
If you're trying to be objective across the board, you can't, select who should be held and given punitive action should be taken on a person that is supporting a party that you're not tied to. If he was trying to be objective, he would have held all those individuals, as you just named, that have rained insults, that have even threatened to kill people, like the very people who are attached to this government, Mak Jabate, to make a statement saying that he was going to threaten to kill somebody, and that was on a recorded line. Mm-hmm. So why didn't he go ahead and approach this gentleman and call him in for questioning and say, hey, there is proof. There is viable proof that is out here, and we need to call you in for questioning and see what needs to be done, whether we need to give this recommendation to the entity that you're attached to, I think is Internal Affairs, to have them dismiss you for this behavior that's unbecoming of a person who's holding a position in government. That would have been the proper call that shows that this is a person who is trying to be objective within his thinking and not targeting just one group. That in itself is not sending a good message to anybody. I think what he should have done, in order to not have people believe that this is politicization, he should have taken it to the proper people. Let's say going to the folks who are in the legislature, as I keep pointing to them, going back to those UP partisans or UP supporters who might work on crafting legislation to solve this issue and not have him be the face of it. Because if you're the face of it, you're sending a clear message to all those attached to this administration that we will be selective in who we go ahead and approach to kick out of government. And that is a wrong precedent.
If the Director General had, say, called the Monrovia City Mayor on the phone, say, hey, take action against these guys, and no one, will know about it, will it be better? Does it look bad now that he said it in the press conference? Either way, will it look better or bad?
Absolutely. The optics is bad because you're standing in a press conference to make this announcement. Have you consulted with anybody? in your administration with the cabinet, whoever it might be? Have you consulted with them to make such a call for this administration? So before you speak out of turn, you must follow the proper chain of command and go to the people that you need to say, hey, this is what I believe needs to happen as a CSA boss that is trying to put in protocols and procedures for people to respect. This is what needs to be done so we don't have people thinking that I'm trying to politicize my work. That is what he should have done, but he failed to do so. So it makes it, the optics already bad as is. He should have reached out to the mayor, and then they could have escalated it up the proper channels. I mean, they have cabinet meetings where they could have that dialogue behind closed doors to figure out what is the proper solution and what needs to be said. But he didn't do that. So the optics already makes it look like he's trying to politicize his overall entity and make government public enemy number one for anybody that's not attached to it.
And Dr. Pearson, what can Josiah do now? And there are others who are also calling for the president to terminate his services. He has, initiated some serious reforms, with numbers to prove to. Why you think should the president yield to the call of folks who say, well, he should be dismissed and be purged from government because of this? What you think the president should do? Why should Josiah do at this time?
I think that's a good question. I think the president should be providing leadership, and that's what's lacking. You can have people who have the zeal, who have the knowledge of what they want to do, but if they start grandstanding, like Josiah Joekai is doing, trying to be the man amongst the rest of the other guys, of course he's going to make mistakes. But you ask a question of Josiah Joekai, not cherry picking. Let me tell you something. Do you know Josiah Joekai wrote a book about President Weah when he was in power, the first year in power in the presidency?
Yeah, the title of the book is The Danger of a Celebrity in Power. For your information, Josiah is like my brother.
Right. So let me give you a quote from
one of those who read the book before the book was even published. Go ahead.
Right. Let me give you a quote from his introduction to that book. One of the quotes from he says that certainly these statements talking about free speech and thing. Mm-hmm. He says it is important, I say, because it contradicts this very thing you're doing. He says that in less than 12 months into the leadership, the president has grossly and repeatedly violated the laws of Liberia, demolished intolerance to not demolished, but demonstrated intolerance toward the opposition. And listen to the one. And continuously threatening advocates, critical voices, pretending the emergence of tyranny. So this is a guy who is very vocal, and it's one of vocal language is in a book that is on record and sold for $13. We groom our young people to be what they are. And you want to come and correct them, you got to correct them with sincerity. You cannot benefit from the same practice and come back and try to present yourself as though you're different from what you're correcting. I think it's hypocritical. So what President Boyka can do to answer the question, I think we need people like Joekai. And I tell you why. He has a passion for what he's doing. And I think he's proceeding in some good directions, but he needs leadership. He needs direction. And any good leader, like we don't have right now, but any good leader that will come after President Boyka and has him to work with can nudge him in the right direction. All right. And I think he's going to do good in that position if he can be given direction.
My only hope is that they will lead to a serious discussion about how we as Liberian citizens will conduct ourselves in public places, bearing in mind that we are representing ourselves, our family, and our country, and we cannot just go off in the name of politics. And just because free speech is guaranteed, will abuse free speech and disrespect each other in ways that actually might bring tension in the country. I hope it will lead to that, and we'll find ways to hold ourselves accountable, to communicate very better, to improve our democracy. On that note, we will go to the phone lines after this quick break, and our callers are standing by to participate. And callers, you have 30 minutes, so be prepared to talk. We will give you more time to talk.
Our
Indeed, fellow Liberians, God gave us this country. We will go to the phone line, and we have the man, Livingstone, standing by. This time, Livingstone beat Evan Morris. Mr. Livingstone, you are live. Yeah, hold on. Let me make an adjustment here. Hold on.
Why are you making an adjustment? Let me say so. Livingstone and get vet. President Boga should resign and temper order Jeremiah Kun.
Oh, I don't know where you're going on with this every time. Gentlemen, hold on. Let me make an adjustment. My speaker is not helping here. I don't know what's going on. Bear with me here quickly.
So why you get?
Right.
Why you, okay.
No, I'm set now. All right, Flomo, go ahead.
Yeah, you know, it's just impossible like people in America talk about freedom of speech, and they don't even know the meaning of freedom of speech. You're right. In a great narrative, we're living your right to responsibility and limitations. The same way we have the right to God, the same way we have the key limit. We have the right to God that is limited on the God of God. So if we should sit there and talk about freedom of speech, you're right. You are right in responsibility. The same way people lose their privilege in America or we can see. If competence in America cannot serve on the Jewish duty, that's the reason why the law that privilege does not have the law to go sit down and to judge other people. They lose that right. Why they can't go tell the government duty? Which is all right for all Americans, but they don't have that right. So I commend the CSA boss, Josiah Joekai. He's doing a great job. I understand people are not used to system. We use so bad thing in our country to the point that when someone comes to bring in good things, we all want to try that good thing. And people need to get inside. In America, if you are a job, you get a fine in the morning. They fire you automatically. Certain behavior you do. In 2010, President Buhari, he fired I think it was Jimmy my question. But this is something we need under the Afghanistan war. Why did we know why Obama fired the right to do that to the president? The president fired him. No, in that war, we need to have a system. You need to know that we can't go say anything about anybody. We have the right, but that's right to use other people. That's not right. That's the right way to call other people because you can't do it. So they will take advantage on the time they come with it who have been fired. Well, if you know you have a fairness to see, behave like you have a family member, like a family person. That is where they actually rule to the president or other people. It's all we should need to be encouraging that we should be criticizing those guys. And I hope they should even realize that they continue to let people employ. And the government did not infringe on their right to succeed. Right now, they're not in jail for what is next. They still have the right to criticize the government. They're not working in government. They have all the time they can criticize the government. No matter what against them, because it's their right to freedom of speech. But we have to know freedom of speech comes with responsibility. Can they go out there and be calling people because you feel that's your right, that's your right? No. You have to have that country to be strict enough That's why you see the war. They just get up and say they will bring war in the country because there was no consequence for the war. They didn't put it in jail. That's what they do. They will carry the war. They will carry the country back to war. Because those who join the war, they will not put in jail. So people can just talk loosely because they feel adultery. And I hope I'll continue, as I said, as Dave Josiah Joekai, 100% of what he's doing. You shouldn't listen to the critics telling about it should rehire the board. Continue to find follow the rules, the CSA rules and stuff like that. And those are on the platform today. When you leave the platform, nobody can go and just talking bad about your boss, your CEO, your company, wherever you work, and then give you warning to, all right? Or when the police officer pull you over for speeding, you should tell the police officer, no, don't pull me over, go pull the other person over. Because you didn't pull the other person like the other driver over. We need to follow rules in our country. Now what happened is so bad for. And Mr. Pearson, I'm sorry, you live with that 6 years, will come and hire another 6 years again. Your man, Mr. Corbin, will not come in trial. Thank you, Mr. Pierre, for the show.
Thank you, Flomo. It seems to be his man, his Kun. I don't know where he's coming from when Lebwaka resigned and Kun take over, as though any good thing will come from Kun. I don't know what he sees in Kun for which he believes Kun will do anything better for our country. Thank you, Flomo Livingston, for your perspective there. Evan Morris is standing by. Mr. Morris, you are live.
Come on, man. What's on? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. C. I must say to you, I mean, you got to do better when you're hosting with the callers. You can't keep us on the line for 30 minutes, you know, and you just kind of forget about us on the line. You got to come to the callers sooner. We're doing, sometimes we're busy. We take our time to call.
Yeah, you have enough time. You have enough time. I think I sell it. So go ahead.
Yeah, let me say this quickly. Look, I think you kind of put it in there. But I think you did the discussion of the service. It started off well. It went pretty good when it came to Josiah. The bias was starting to show. You have a personal relationship with this guy. He's your friend. He's your buddy. But you have to talk to him and stop trying to defend him. Because the reality is, this is Liberia. You know, if you like him, you care about him, there's no safety. You know this is Liberia. This is not the United States. And this guy is definitely a partisan. He is not somebody who is neutral. He campaigned for Boycott. He was on the Boycott team, helping to coordinate, you know, with their tally sheet and all those different things. He's definitely a partisan. And he showed it on the national level that he's a partisan, 100% for Boycott. And I think what it shows is that he has... Did he say he's a partisan for Boycott? He is. He's working in the Boycott war room. He was one of the people that was giving information on how the tally sheet was going.
Can somebody be a partisan to a person?
He's a let's say United Party partisan, or he's a supporter of Boycott. If you want to be technical.
Yeah, what I know for a fact is he supported President Boycott twice now. That's what I know. That is the fact. But now Unity Party, he's not a member of Unity Party. Has never been. Go ahead.
He may not be a member of Unity Party, but he was on the team. He was one of the people that people were giving credit to. He was counting votes. He was doing all kinds of things.
That is true. He and other guys started the war room, and he was the leading person who started that war room. That's true.
Right. So for him to come here and act like everybody has to show decorum, and let alone he criticized President Weah heavily. So he is a political actor who is serving in a position that's supposed to be neutral. So when people come in and try to make it seem like this guy is being neutral and he's bringing rule of order, he's a partisan, he has a side. So for me, I don't think it's fair for you to try to whitewash it and act and say this guy is a neutral guy who only wants to implement the code of conduct. It's not true. And lastly, let me say this. When it comes to this whole thing with President Boycott, I used to say it during the campaign, but I refrained from it out of respect for the office of the presidency. But he's like a mafia boss. You know, the mafia boss, when it comes to extort people, they'll come and try to be your friend. When you refuse them, then they come with violence. Boycott will try to come and entice you with money. If you refuse it, then he come to, you know, threaten you with prosecution. That's what's going on. If you've seen that very same tactics, I use that word, people say, oh, you're being over, you know. But yeah, the same tactics he's using. My man, you know what we'll say to you. You try to lowball these guys. 25,000 is nothing. Those guys will be making in the next couple of years, maybe a couple of $100,000 in that position. Trying to lowball them, and if they refuse, you tell them, you know, we got this audit. You guys have been informed to be and so this is going to go through court for at least 2 or 3 years. By that time, the tenure will be over. They're doing the same tactics that many of these other presidents use. So for me, I would tell you this. I was naive when it came to Boyka. I thought he was going to be different, especially when it came to the rule of law. Because from the past, we've seen no evidence of him being somebody who would be, just blatantly disrespecting the rule of law. But now, I won't say president, but I'm pleasantly surprised that he's going down this road. And you, Mr. C, as a host, I think you have to be clear. When the discussion even starts, you have to put a full disclosure out there that you have a close relationship with Joekai, and thereby maybe your analysis will not be 100% unbiased. But I think the guy is proceeding in a way that he's showing careless, he's being reckless in the society that he lives in. Because this is the thing with diaspora in Liberia. They don't have to live in the country after the leave. They'll do anything they want to do when it's kind of, they run to America, they kind of safety of America. And you will not test for in Liberia. Let's say Josiah, you will not test for it for the next 6 years. But while you think you have the protection and the comfort of Boyka administration, you will do everything to try to appease Boyka. You're trying to be Boyka personal protector. You can't do that. Your bias is showing, and people like us will have no respect for him because he's not being fair, he's being partisan, he's being political in his decision making. And for me, I think that's 100% wrong. And you, as his friend, you have to call him out on it and call him privately and tell him to watch out for his own safety because his family is depending on him, and he shouldn't be reckless in the way he handles the government business. Thank you for taking my call.
Evans, no, hold on. I have two questions for you. There are others, right, who are saying Mr. Joekai should slow down. What do you think they mean when they say Mr. Joekai should slow down? Because his reform efforts, he gotten a lot of commendation for the reforms he started there at the civil service. Except with this, that many people have zero criticism, right? Some are even calling on the president to terminate his services. Where do you stand? What do people mean that he should slow down, and should he be terminated, as others are calling?
Not terminated, of course not. I think overall he's trying to show that he's working. But if you want to be balanced, and that's one of the problems that many of us have with this government, they're not balanced. If you can show me quote unquote unity partisan, right? Take for example, Quinn Johnson, right? Who is on video taking rock and knocking it on somebody's head, and that person subsequently died. At a minimum, she should be charged with assault. But she's working at the free pool. I don't know if she's a public servant or appointee. Maybe you'll see his area. But somebody like that, if this guy was 100% unbiased, he would say that person, President Boyka, if he appointed him, or if they are a regular civil servant, should not be serving in government. They need to be investigated, and if found not guilty, then maybe they can serve in government. But this was a planned act that we saw on camera. He's not saying anything about it. My point here is he's never held anybody that is associated with a Unity Party in contempt or even say anything negative about it. But everything is about the CDC. So this is Liberia. This is not America where we can be so, oh, the government will protect you, the police will be there when anything happens to you. His life is in danger. That's why you see people who are even in the Unity Party, people who support the Unity Party, are trying to slow down because that's Liberia. Nobody can sit on this platform and act as if Liberia is 100% safe and nothing can happen to you because you're serving government. People who serve in government have died overnight. Auditors, Maputo on Japan, die. So when you serve in government, you think you're 100% safe. Don't be naive. Think about your family. Think about what happened after government. He's your friend. I'm telling you, I don't know him. You know him. So give him that warning because people who are very high in government are telling him to slow down. Not because they don't want him to do a good job, but because they understand how Liberia works. When you do things the wrong way and arbitrary and think you're 100% safe, nobody is safe. Even if the government is on your side, you're not 100% safe. So it's just a warning about his safety and his security. I'm not doing anything. I'm in America. What can I do to him? But the very people that are in Liberia who have power, who are in the corridors of power, is warning him. Don't take it on somebody small like myself. Take it on the senators who are warning him. And you are her friend. Look out for his best interest. Tell him to be mindful. Because our country can anything can happen. And you know what happened during the war? People started pinpointing people who were going after and they wanted to kill because they were in certain position and they did certain things and they held that grudge. So you shouldn't put yourself in the firing line to be targeted if anything happens. Because today or tomorrow, there's a coup, there's a war, and the same people like him and other people who try to go after other people, they will come after you. So be mindful. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final caller here, phone number ending in 2013. Your name and where you joining us from?
Well, my name is Ishmael. I'm calling from Boston, Massachusetts.
All right, Ishmael, go ahead.
Yeah, listening to all of you guys about these people, I would first of all like to talk about this very two gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
These two that are working at the city corporation. One of them is the public relations officer. For a little term, he's more like the information minister over there. So his job is between the public and whatsoever agenda that's given at that corporation. That is his job to relay this. Number one, these two are from a handover government. That's number one. Number two, they are not in a coalition government where they can speak their mind. Number three, they are not in a term limit position where they can also speak their mind. Now, they work for the corporation of Monrovia, the city corporation. If they can go behind the city corporation and go directly to the president and talking about $20 million, who has not been done, so on and so forth, the president or anybody within position over him can fire him. The working government is a privilege. It's not a right. Okay, if he wants to exercise his freedom of speech, he should do it outside of government. Nowhere in the world you can work for a government or a corporation and attack that corporation or government while you work for them. Nowhere, even here in America, it just won't work. If you do that, they will fire you. So there's no law that has been violated. The civil rights was not violated. You have a privilege, and you should know that a privilege is not a right. And that's why he did, and that's why he got fired. So for all of the people out there that are on this side, that his civil rights were violated or his freedom of speech, no, nothing was done with that. If you don't like the agenda or policy of a government, you leave the government. They criticize the government from outside. But you can be within the government. And number four, this guy, they are strong supporters from the CDC government. So they are a complete overstating over this. If you don't want to push the BRCA agenda, then you should leave government. But you can be within the government and criticizing the policy of the government. Nowhere in the world is being happening. So their freedom of speech was not violated. If you don't like what the government is doing, you resign and then criticize the government from outside. If the government comes after you, then of course your freedom of right was violated. But what happened here? Walker has the right. The guy who over these people has the right to fight. It was some privilege that they were under. It was not a right. So everyone misinterprets this thing as though their civil rights has been or their freedom of speech has been violated. No, Donald Trump fired the FBI by himself.
We got our point now. You're saying it over and over.
No.
Oh no! I just want to emphasize.
No. That appears in give the caller a chance to talk. We have 1 hour 30 minutes to talk here. Go ahead. You are protected.
Yeah. So the freedom of speech here was not violated. They have the right to fire him, and they should go. So that's my 2 cents on this whole thing.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very good discussion. I will try to organize a debate of two persons who have different view on this subject, and I think I will reach out to two persons who disagree on this to debate this further. He's saying, hey, this is not about freedom of speech. These are employees of the government who are exhibited behavior the government deem as misconduct, gross insubordination to their boss, and they let them go. There's no punishment against them, but other people disagree, say, well, you said because of what they said, you took their job away from them, that's punishment. So this is a debate. Maybe we have to find time to bring two individuals to really go into the. Let me read a few comments, gentlemen, before I get your closing here. Let's read this one from Afra Bleedy. Liberians don't like good people, can bring good system that can help the country. We keep electing bad leaders to represent us as president. Let's hear from Sir Richard Clinton, but these very government-supported elements who insulted the former president, George Manuel. We have families, and that is a true statement. Unity Party people had a lot of people insulting, past officials, on social media, and many people I know in this government supported those individuals. And I will even give an example of somebody who I know very, very well, who is close to me, George Lobo. George Lobo, if there's anyone who campaigned for Joseph Boakai for the last 6 years in opposition, that was George Preston Lobo. George Lobo will go on Prophet Kisho and carry a government official name to Prophet Kito insult, and he was supporting Boakai. He didn't find anything wrong with that. And I know Lobo supported Yeke Koluba. He never called Yeke Koluba out. The behavior he exhibited over, I don't think he's happy with Yeke Koluba now. This is the hypocrisy that I see with those that support politicians for president. I can't stand it. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do it. And, I heard Evans telling me I'm trying to water down the discussion because Josiah is my friend. Josiah is my personal friend. He's my brother. He's like a family. It is not my responsibility to defend him. Josiah is more than competent to defend himself, his action. I have a very good relationship with him, and it will remain so. He's a competent and professional person. He's a human being. He's liable to mistakes, and I'm sure that he's competent enough to speak for himself. I don't speak for Josiah. I'm doing my job here. This is a topic against a friend, a dear brother, and I brought it up to discuss it. Doesn't that tell you that I'm not defending anybody? I'm not shooting anybody yet? No, that is not my job. All my friends know me. I don't defend them. I do not defend them. I don't go to their defense in anything, and they know that, and I told them. So, especially when they're in government. Yes, I don't do that. Except somebody is attacking you outside of politics, trying to target your family, that is a different thing. But when it comes to politics, I do not come to your defense. I'm in the media. That is not my business. I hold all politicians accountable. I just wanted to make that clear because Eric Morris felt that, I'm trying to shield my good friend and brother. I don't see it that way. Well, gentlemen, I think we had a good discussion. Let me get your closing on the two issues. We talked about questionable resignations at the LTA, the government that was going after the individuals, now offering them financial packages and promising them that, hey, we'll not deal with you legally if you resign, take the package and leave. It said that all they wanted was just leave, let's replace you with our own people. Is that what it was? Or was it about accountability in the first place? Gentlemen, that was the first issue we discussed. And this criticism against the CSA boss for recommending dismissal of 9 individuals at the Liberia City Corporation who clearly are seditious and supported President Weah and are opposed to President Boakai politically, for which they took issues with him on social media by raining insults on him. This is the second thing that we discussed. Gentlemen, let's get your closing. You can take 2 minutes each of you. Let's do it. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, let me go. For Liberia to move forward, we will need an agenda that will be inclusive of all Liberians. If we're going to set an example of how we should run Liberia, it has to be one that is transparent, fair to all people. If we choose any other path, we'll run into the same calamity that we've experienced before. We notice that this administration is definitely purging the jobs, removing people from positions, even tenured positions. So there is a lot of this going on. It's unmistaken. And what they should be doing is creating jobs, creating avenues for more jobs, for more Liberians to get jobs. Because right now, they have government being the largest employer. It is impacting ordinary Liberians every single day. So if this administration wants to be successful, It's going to be about creating opportunities for new jobs. And if they're going to be successful, they will also have to exhibit a fair, even-handed execution of justice in the country. It is essential that they do this, because I can already see that the nature or the trend that we see ourselves on will lead to future clashes in the future. It is not too late to turn this thing around. All we want is a fair way of going about removing people from jobs and employing people. That is all we want to see. We do not want to see or hear examples of they did it then or that they did it before. That will not cut it. So we can only implore this administration to show the maturity that they once claimed they had, and be fair to all Liberians in the execution of their duties. I leave it right there.
Go ahead, Gibson.
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for the time allotted to me to share and be a part of this dialogue. When President Joekai took office, there were two things that he said that has always resonated with me whenever I hear any issues in the media. The first thing that he said during his inaugural speech was, "It will no longer be business as usual." The second thing that he said recently, I believe, during his travel either to the States or somewhere, he said, "I am not someone who is focused on the next election, but I'm focused on the next generation." As someone who has said some of these things, as a statesman who is focused on leaving a legacy that will be etched in history for many Liberians to look and say, wow, this president came in as a true visionary and transformed the nation. I have yet to see that take place within these, 7 so months that he's been in. It's been tattered with a lot of corrupt acts taking place, with a lot of mischievous things being done around this individual who was revered as a statesman that knew what he was doing on the first day that he took office. And he's fallen short to me. When it comes to the issues that we see with the CSA and the LTA, he needs to speak up and take control of what is happening in his administration, whether he's making these calls or his subordinates are making the calls. It needs to be made clear. Transparency is lacking when it comes to what's taking place behind the scenes. As a person who is focused on leaving a mark and making it better for the next generation, you must make sure that people's rights are protected, that the rule of law that you ran on when you made the arrest agenda of agriculture, roads, rule of law, education, sanitation, and tourism, those were things that you prioritized. But we have yet to see any of those things enacted under this administration. As a leader that is racing against time, and time is not on administration sides because there's so many things that you have to have accomplished. You must start by pointing to the ills that are occurring now and correct them, as Mr. Eastman has stated. There's a lot of things that need to be done, and time is of the essence, and the time for all of these things that are going on need to cease before we get to the end of the year. There's a lot that's riding on this. Liberians are depending on the Joekai administration to rescue them, and rescue cannot occur when corruption is still the order of the day. Thank you so much for providing me the time. I look forward to the next conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Yeah, Mr. Sia, thanks for having me tonight, and thanks to my fellow panelists for the time we spent together tonight, and to the audience for listening. And I'd like to close by calling our attention to the fact that those boys, those Liberians that were dismissed from the Monrovia City Corporation, I mean, they were wrongfully dismissed. In fact, I think they undercut the civil service standing order by not giving them sufficient education and enough time to their books exculpate themselves, all right, and not giving them warning letters as their own order stipulates, even though they were not dismissed on the basis of the civil service standing order. So I think someone mentioned reform taking place about the acts of Josiah Joekai, the Director General. And I think reform and change happens with a lot of education and awareness. As you focus on those things, there's a difference between adhering to the system and the rule of law and acting outside of the rule of law. Acting outside of the rule of law is not following what is on the books. You cannot say you're instituting reform, I should say, excuse me, by violating the very laws that are on the books. So if you cannot follow the laws on the books, then why reform are you instituting? You know, it doesn't make no sense to me. And then I want to say, look, listen, when it comes to the firing of those boys, unfortunately, somebody tried to compare it to America. America is not the same. People educate you on the policies on a regular basis. People guide you in the policies on a regular basis, and there was a basis for you to be fired. A neutral body, which is the HR, will guide the process to make sure there's no bias in the evaluation process of the dismissal. And even at that, if you feel uncomfortable with the dismissal, there's an appeal process to an ethics committee, who is even more objective in the review of the entire process. None of these were accorded these guys, and I think we cannot say reform and then go back to business as usual. And lastly, I see a lot of people in government today who have come to power because they feel they can come and get what they can get out of it, and they will compromise the integrity of the different positions that they are going to, and they fight against corruption, the agenda for the entire government. If only they can get what they want to get out of it, and it's sad. And I would say going forward, I think President Bokar needs to take action. And show leadership. If not, he should step aside and let his deputy take over and lead the country. Let's see what Jeremiah Kun can do. Because Bokar is achy in his education and leadership. He has nothing to show for the time he's ruled and serving government. So, we don't have any confidence in him left after all we've seen. So, thank you for having me again tonight. And
if Kun become worse than Bokar, what do we do?
Let's be frank. I think Kun has his issues, and I can say for a fact from his time in the Senate. But listen, Kun, do investigation on Kun. Kun has some very productive record when it comes to.
You are advocating for an alleged corrupt individual who, based on record I've seen, spend money from the government to his private businesses. You are advocating for him to be president. You think that would be any good?
So listen to me. The two individuals have been elected to office. We don't have a choice. We either live with Kun or we live with Bokar. I think Kun is better than Bokar.
I don't know what you have to say you're using, but I don't know what you have to say we're using that. Leave it there. Conclude your closing.
Yeah. Kun is better than Bokar. Is closing.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your time and honoring our invitation. This is our platform. We do this collectively to provide understanding on the issues affecting our country so that our leaders will have the right understanding of these serious issues and make the right decision to make our nation Liberia to go forward. Folks who follow the discussion and those who will follow later on, we want to say thank you, and don't hesitate to always share what are you following live or after. It is important that other people get to know what's been discussed to the depth, and also the substance that you find here. You cannot find it anywhere on the planet in Liberia. My name is Anthony Sier, the host of Hour of Politics. As we say here, focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The song that says we are all Liberians close to the broadcast right now. Jimmy?
Yeah.
Bye-bye again. Bye-bye.
Okay.